Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. As many of you may know, this statue here is the Buddha. The Buddha was born in around 530 BC. He was the son of a king, Siddhartha. He was born in the foothills of the Himalayas, in between India and Nepal, and he was born a prince. Prince Siddhārtha Gautama was his birth name, and when he was born, his dad received a prophecy from a sayer saying he's either going to become an emperor or he's going to become a renunciant, a monk. And his dad being the king, he wanted him to become an emperor. Obviously he wanted him to have power and acclaim, and he was worried that he might become a renunciant. So he really sheltered Prince Siddhartha and sheltered him, didn't let him see any bad things, sheltered him and covered him in all the fineries, the best silks, the best horses, the best everything. But Prince Siddhartha wasn't happy, wasn't comfortable, felt that there was something missing. Even though he had everything that you could dream of, he felt that there was more. And there's one time they went to a ploughing festival, and the young prince, I think about 7 or 8 years old at this point, was watching the ploughs go up and down on the field over and over, and he just started contemplating, just a little boy, but he was contemplating about the poor insects and worms and animals that are in the soil, and they're just being churned up and they're suffering. Really, he was thinking about these insects and how much they must be suffering because of this ploughing festival. So this initial thought really stayed in his mind, and he would contemplate what's life, suffering and all these other things, and these thoughts wouldn't leave him. And so he would say to his dad, King Siddhartha, I want to go outside, I need to see the world, I want to see what life is, Yes, he was married at this time and had a son as well, so he wasn't happy being a prince. So his father could see that his destiny was being drawn more out towards the renunciant, the monk, and so he agreed to let him leave the castle and go out and see the world. And this is where I'm going to read it rather than try and paraphrase it and do it poorly. There's a great edition of the Dhammapada by Eknath Eshran, and he has a great introduction, and then obviously the text as well, the Dhammapada, which you can actually find on the channel. I'll link that up here if you want the whole text. So this is a famous story about the Buddha's 4 sights that he saw when he left the temple, the castle. And yeah, it's just a beautiful thing to contemplate and think about, what all these things affect us as humanity, not just Buddhists or Christians or Jew or Muslim. Every human being is affected by these things. So yeah, I'll just read it out rather than paraphrase it. Finally, desperate to ease his tormented mind, Siddhartha persuaded his father to agree to a day outside the walls of his estates. Recalling the prophecy at his son's birth, King Siddhartha made sure that the city was ready. No one poor, no one sick, no one unhappy was to be present along the prince's designated route. Yet despite all precautions, among the cheerful cheering crowd who turned out to greet him, Siddhartha happened to catch sight of a man whose face was sallow and drawn, and whose eyes were glazed with fever. "What's the matter with that man, Channa?" he asked his charioteer in horror. "That is disease," Channa replied. "All are subject to it. If a man is mortal, disease can strike him, even if he be rich or royal." Siddhartha continued on his excursion, but he could not forget the pallor of the man's face or the haunted look in his eyes. The next day Siddhartha ventured outside the city again. This time he saw a bent, wrinkled woman faltering on her staff. Siddhartha regarded her with compassion. "Is this too disease?" he asked. "No," Channa replied. "It is only age, which overtakes us all." "Will my wife become like that?" "Yes, my lord. even Princess Yashodhara, beautiful as a full moon in a cloudless sky. One day her skin too will be wrinkled and her eyes dim, and she will falter in her steps. Channa, I've seen enough, take me back. But in the palace, Siddhartha found no peace. Before long he ventured out a third time, and on this occasion he saw a corpse stretched out on a bier for cremation. What is that, Channa, which resembles a man but looks more like a log? That was once a man, but death has come to claim him. Only his body remains. Death will come for all of us, rich or poor, well or ill, young as well as old. Even for my newborn son, yes, my lord, he too will lie like that one day. The prince closed his eyes and covered his ears, but a bomb had burst in the depths of his consciousness, and everything around him seemed edged with morality. On his way home, a fourth sight arrested him, a man seated by the roadside with closed eyes, his body upright and still. Channa, what kind of a man is that? Is he dead too? No, that is a bhikshu, who has left worldly life to seek what lies beyond. When the body seems dead, but the spirit is awake, that is what they call yoga. Siddhartha rode home in deep thought. The rest of the day found no peace. The roses in his garden, whose beauty had always caught his eye, now reminded him only of the evanescence of life. The bright scenes of laughter of the palace flowed by like running water. Everything is changed, he thought. Each moment comes and goes. Is there nothing more? Nothing to the future but decline and death? These questions are familiar from the lives of saints and Sikhs in every tradition, and there is nothing morbid about them. It is this awareness of death that brings life into clear focus. The Buddha to be was beginning to wake up. So I thought I would share that story of the Buddha's early life and his journey outside of the castle and the four sights that he saw that ultimately caused him to realize the changing nature of life and reality. And he goes on to say in the book and in the Buddhist tradition that ultimately they believe in reincarnation, so rebirths, you get reincarnated, and they would call that the wheel of samsara. So you're born and you die, and you're born and you die, and you either, you get a disease or you old age and then death. But he learned that there's also yoga, and you can be a bhikshu or a monk or renunciant, hermit, whatever you want to call it, and you can find real peace, not princeliness or wealth, money, but you can find the real happiness that comes again through, in this case, the Buddhist path, the Dharma. The Dharma will find you peace and happiness. And so hope you enjoyed the episode about the Buddha and his life, and I'll see you soon.